My goal for my SuperBeetle was to get it driving in July of 2021. At the beginning of May, I realized that I needed to get on the stick to get it done because there was suspension work to do, engine work to do. This video is replacing the right front steering knuckle. I wanted to do it while the suspension was all apart. The engine is mostly built because of the super shimmy that had developed. I'm putting all new bushings and new tie rod ends and everything. I want to place the steering knuckle as long as I have this all apart. To be clear, the spindle is this shiny sticky out part that the wheel spins on. The steering knuckle is this larger assembly, but the spindle is part of the steering knuckle, and I unfortunately use the terms interchangeably. Here's what the shoulder of the spindle should look like. The one on the front right of my car has this nasty lip. So I bought a replacement. Unfortunately, this joint between the shock tower and the spindle is not coming loose. When the steering knuckle is replaced, I'll work on the suspension, brakes back together, fuel tank out, washed out, oil system, and then finally the engine, and then we'll get this car back on the road. So this bit is part of the bottom, and then this outer flange is part of the thing that needs to come out. They seem to be pretty well locked together, so I need to get some penetrating oil down in this joint. There's some hammer and chisel work here that I didn't film. Starting to get a bit of a crack. Is starting to open up just a little bit. This is actually probably a really good time to soak it because the stuff will actually get in there now. This basket of aluminum foil around the lower part of this flange is I'm going to just expend an entire can of penetrating oil and just fill it. And this will sit for a couple of days. There we go. Oh my gosh. I got this all nice and cleaned up. Got these surfaces all mostly sanded. This is all shiny, and you can even see the original machining marks where this was taper board, filed and flattened off so that it will accept the ball joint, ready to be assembled. And here's the strut tower. The top of it goes in the top of the fender. The bottom goes against the steering knuckle. I got the surfaces on the bottom of this flange filed flat because I kind of munged some of them up. You can see some of the residue here. This is where I'd gotten the chisel in to get the steering knuckle apart. It just slots right in there. It goes right in. It doesn't have a lot of wiggle room, but I'm going to grease this one up so that it's, if I ever need to get it apart again. So the next step is to put the tower back on the car, the steering knuckle back on the strut, put the ball joint on the bottom of there, and then it's just awaiting the rest of the suspension pieces to all have their proper bushings and everything, and then start assembling it. get it all together, but then I realize I left the lock plates off. Since this is, after all, the car's made load-bearing joint, I get the socket wrench so I can get some real torque on these bolts. The new steering knuckle is on at long last. And new ball joint. I hope you enjoyed that video. Please stay tuned for me getting this car on the road. Don't be afraid to set goals for a really long-term project. The ending is often very satisfying, and never stop figuring stuff out.